I had a good time watching The Bad Batch, and I've got my slightly spoilerish review for you right now. Last Friday was the season finale of the first season of Star Wars The Bad Batch, and truly excellent show on Disney Plus that I have been enjoying as it has been parsed out to us every Friday. And it has been one of the true treats of the week for me to get up early in the morning on a Friday and to sit back and just get lost in this Star Wars lore that Dave Filoni and his colleagues have crafted for us. This is a show about the extension of the Clone Wars and the move towards the original Star Wars trilogy that started in 1977 as we started to understand what the Empire was and what stormtroopers were. They were very, very freaky, iconic images, especially for me as a kid seeing Star Wars for the first time. And so this is kind of unraveling the mystery and moving us from what we understood from the prequel era, which is how the Clone Wars were introduced and the clone troopers were introduced and the city of Kamino was introduced, into the sort of more destroyed, technologically primitive, unhappy world of Star Wars from 77 onward, except when we were on the ships for the Empire, which were all super shiny and glossy. So this is really interesting material to mine. It's sort of in this interesting space in the Star Wars timeline, but we're also not focused on a tremendous amount of different characters and a tremendous amount of different plot lines. We're not bouncing all across the corners of the galaxy. We are primarily focused on, in this first season, 5 members of the Bad Batch and a child that they pick up along the way named Omega. There's friction within the ranks of the Bad Batch, who is this elite clone force that has been augmented. They're kind of mutated and unaccepted variations on the clones that make up the bulk of the clone army. They're an elite force that goes on some pretty awesome missions, and we see some of those in the Clone Wars series. But then we see that they break ranks and they take the chips out of their head, the same chips that force the clones to turn on the Jedi and kill them. And that's how the series starts off, by the way, this first season. And it's incredible. It's exhilarating right out of the gate. But then it also gets kind of personal and smaller and more focused. And when they pick up the child along the way, this other clone named Omega, at first I thought it was kind of an olive branch to kind of make sure that the kids were along for this ride, because this is obviously a military troop after all. And there's going to be a lot of gunfights and a lot of high adventure dealing with wiping out forces. And so the kid, I think, kind of softens some of the storytelling and humanizes some of the storytelling. They're not just this grizzled elite military force that will kill for dollars or kill for orders or kill because they have to survive. There's more at stake here the minute that Omega enters. And as we learn as the season progresses, Omega means a lot more to Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch, and Star Wars lore than we first realize. She's not just this child clone with some pretty cool innate abilities and a resiliency and an empathy that makes her a compelling addition to the team. There's a lot of mystery around this character. In fact, she's older than the Bad Batch. She's a little kid, but she's been around as a clone and as a sister to these brothers for longer than the Bad Batch has been around. She watched them all be created. And that's just fascinating. And the other thing that's quite fascinating too is that we bounce to different planets and we go on different missions, and there is this anthology-esque kind of quality about the show. There are episodes where you can just drop in. You don't have to know anything about what's going on outside of the space, and you're going to have a great time. But there, of course, always is this undercurrent of connection from episode to episode. We're also bouncing back and forth to Kamino. And in this finale, we see the death of Kamino, a really interesting location that has been a part of video games, has been a part of some pretty epic scenes. I always loved Kamino when I saw it in the prequels. I thought it was so cool. These Kaminoans, these tall, elongated creatures that were building the clone army were just fascinating. Just a great imaginative construct, and chilling as well. That these humans, these clone humans, were just being made to be a killing force. They were incredibly effective. And then the whole Jango Fett plotline and the Boba Fett plotline, all of that stuff is really cool. And so it was quite a somber end to see Kamino die and the last vestiges of the clone force represented by the Bad Batch and Omega kind of escaping. And also, the crux of this first season is the friction that is very much alive within the ranks of the Bad Batch themselves, that sort of disassociation that they have with Crosshair and how he becomes truly an enemy to the remaining members of the Bad Batch. And there's some excellent back and forth all the way throughout the season. And that sort of crescendos in this finale as well. But it also ends on kind of a somber, low-key note. But we have an excellent jumping off point to where we're going to go next with the Bad Batch, but also some excellent threads and some familiar characters that we see in other corners of Star Wars lore scattered throughout the season, but lots of new threads to pull and lots of connective tissue to where the live action stuff is going to go, like the next season of The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett. We are likely going to see live-action versions of the Bad Batch themselves. I thought the scripts were terrific for this season. I thought the storytelling and the performances by everybody, especially D. Bradley Baker, it still blows my mind that he plays all of these characters and he does them all with a true level of humanity and uniqueness, and he's bouncing conversations back and forth between these characters so expertly. God, it's just a wonderful show. The orchestration, the animation, the plates, the location work. There is this Ralph McQuarrie quality that I've talked about before in talking about the Bad Batch that's there, you know? Like, it's the birth of a franchise in a way, you know? Even though it's connecting stuff we've seen before, it works in kind of the same way that Rogue One works, you know. It's sort of, and it has a Rogue One kind of vibe. It's almost like Rogue One animated in a way, but from a different vantage point. It's a wonderful show. I really hope that the quality bar is consistent in the second season, which I cannot wait for. I'm going to give the Bad Batch Season 1 a 9 out of 10.